Yes, you lot, it's Bob Ross here. Nah, I'm joking, it's Louis Talks Footy. Welcome back to the channel. I've had a little bit of a trim, looking a little bit like Bob Ross right now. But luckily for you lot, I'm not going to be doing any painting because I'm absolutely shocking at it. But instead, I'm going to be having a difficult conversation about a Manchester City player that I absolutely love. And every single Man City fan absolutely loves this guy. It's Phil Foden. Before I get into this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. I really want to hear what you lot have to say about Phil Foden, what you think his future might be at Manchester City, or if it even is at Manchester City, because for me, his current form can't continue. But anyway, that's for later in the video. We're going to get into that. But first of all, I want to try and pinpoint where it went wrong for Phil Foden, because at one point, he was absolutely unplayable. He was the best footballer in the Premier League, won PFA Player of the Year, and arguably the best football player in the world. He was cropping up with goals and assists in massive moments, putting up big numbers. And even when he wasn't putting up goals and assists, he was massively involved. Everything went through him and he was pulling the strings for Manchester City when we most needed him. And of course, the season I'm referring to there is the 2023-24 season. So I want to start there, but I also want to touch on Phil Foden when he was coming up through the academy and into the first team for Manchester City. I think it's safe to say that everyone was very excited when Foden was coming through the academy. Pep Guardiola always had very nice things to say about him from a very young age. He came out and said that Phil Foden was very special after he scored a winner when he was 18 against Tottenham. So when the best manager of all time is coming out saying some amazing things about this young talent that's coming through our academy and into the first team, you know he's got something about him. You know he's going to go on to do something very good. You know he's going to be a special player. And that was the kind of feeling when he was coming through, getting the odd appearances, cropping up with the odd goal or assist, or quick feet in tight spaces to get him out of trouble. Little bits of magic like that just got us off our seat and got us excited to watch Phil Foden. So by the 2023-24 season, he was already a very established name in Manchester City, a household name in England, and he was already a superstar in his own right with nicknames like the Stockport Iniesta, Stockport Messi. So by the 2023-24 season, he's not like a little kid anymore. He's had his breakthrough years, and he was now what I would have referred to as a senior member of the squad. Been here for a long time, experienced winning trophies, knows the Pep Guardiola system inside out, knows the club inside out. So things were looking great for Phil Foden. Like I say, 2023-24 season comes around, and this is where it all kicks off for him. Kevin De Bruyne, Manchester City's talisman, gets injured early on in the season, and this is where Pep Guardiola decides to give a lot of responsibility to Phil Foden to go and fill a Kevin De Bruyne shaped hole in the Manchester City squad. And they're big boots to fill and high expectations to live up to. You got to be getting a lot of goals and a lot of assists to make up for what we were missing from Kevin De Bruyne. So there's a lot of responsibility on Phil Foden, but he also had the free reign to go and express himself on the pitch and do what he does best. In that season, we saw Phil Foden grab a hat-trick against Brentford, a goal and assist in a Club World Cup final, hat-trick against Aston Villa in the business end of the season, scoring from outside of the box in a UEFA Champions League quarter-final at the Bernabeu in front of a Real Madrid crowd. He scored 2 goals in a must-win last game of the season against West Ham. And by this point, the Saka, Palmer, Foden debate is put to bed. Phil Foden is undoubtedly the best player out of those three and the best player in the league. Arguably the best player in Europe. And he also went on to win PFA Player of the Year. That year, in 53 appearances, he grabbed himself 40 goal contributions, 27 goals, 13 assists in all competitions. It's looking great, innit? Everything Phil Foden's touching at this point is turning to gold. He's got his own kind of signature move where he's on the edge of the box, he taps the ball out in front of him, he shapes up to shoot, and you know every single time it's a bullet that's going into the back of the net. He was, and he still is, so elite on the half turn. That also became his kind of signature move where he'd get the ball back to goal, turn, and he'd be gone every single time. You just couldn't contain him. You couldn't defend Phil Foden. That leads us on to the 2024-25 season. This is where City as a whole were very flat, no trophies. It all went pear-shaped for Manchester City last season. Also in that summer, he had the Euros with England, and it just never felt right. Obviously, every time Phil Foden's ever played for England, he's never had the same form as he has at club level. But that Euros, he particularly felt quite flat. He didn't affect any games at all, really. He played every single match as well, and it just wasn't happening. People were saying he was fatigued from the amount of games he was playing the season before, so that was kind of alright. We were kind of letting him off with it. But then, like I say, we went into the 2024-25 season, and it was all quite flat again. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad by any means, but it's not Phil Foden level. 49 appearances, 13 goals, 3 assists. But it's not just that. I think in a lot of these games, Phil Foden was ghosting. He was non-existent. He wasn't affecting the games in the way that he used to. Even prior to the 2023-24 season, we'd see Phil Foden influencing the game a lot, even if he wasn't cropping up with goals and assists. And for me, I just didn't feel like he was doing that. At one point, I think he went 6 months without any goal contributions. And it's also important to note that Rodri was injured for a lot of this. And I think when you've got Ballon d'Or winning Rodri behind you in the 2023-24 season, you have got more free reign to express yourself going forward. And Phil Foden definitely missed that in 2024-25 when Rodri got that big injury at the start of the season. He couldn't kind of do it in the same way. The whole team felt different. But this was where I started to really get a little bit frustrated with Phil Foden, because he wasn't taking the bull by the horns like he used to. He wasn't taking games by the scruff of the neck and winning them for us like I wanted him to, like I needed him to. Kevin De Bruyne couldn't do it anymore. His legs have gone a little bit. He's had his time. But Phil Foden's coming into his prime now. So I'm expecting him as a senior member of the squad, when City are playing flat, to, like I say, take the game by the scruff of the neck and go and get a goal for us. Go and pick up the ball and drive forward, produce a bit of magic. But it just didn't seem to happen. And I think Phil Foden's had some personal issues off the pitch. Obviously, we don't know the details of that. Nobody can speak about that. Only Phil Foden knows. And maybe people inside the club like Pep Guardiola. But at the end of the day, if he's not performing on the pitch, that needs to be addressed. So that takes us to the 2025-26 season. So far, he's appeared in 36 matches. He's grabbed himself 7 goals and 3 assists. Again, it's not awful, but it just isn't Phil Foden form. It isn't Phil Foden like Man City fans want him to be. It's not Stockport Iniesta. It's not what we thought Phil Foden was going to be for Man City. And that's a tough pill to swallow when you've not got the likes of Kevin De Bruyne anymore. When you've not got the likes of Ilkay Gundogan banging in goals. When you've not got Bernardo Silva in his prime anymore. This is where we're looking at Phil Foden and thinking, mate, all these senior players that were around you when you were coming up and when you started to do very well, they're kind of dropping off now. Now we need to see you blossom and be that person yourself. Be that leader yourself. And he just hasn't done that yet for me. And I'm not just going off goals and assists. I've got a season ticket at the Etihad Stadium. I watch him week in, week out with my own eyes. I don't miss a game unless I'm working. And there's been too many times this season where I've seen Phil Foden ghost and be completely ineffective. And I've got to the point where it's getting so frustrating. Not because I think he's rubbish, but the opposite. I know what he's got in his locker. And those abilities that Phil Foden has, they don't just disappear. Even with age, he's not even old at all, but even with age, say he was 30, they don't disappear like that. There's still ways you can impact the game. So I don't believe that Phil Foden's fallen off a cliff and he isn't the same player that he used to, just magically. There's something else going on. I really want to see that come out in him again, but he just isn't doing it. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, at what point do we keep accepting Phil Foden playing this way? I know he's been dropped a few times this season, but maybe drop him for a considerable length of time and just try and wait till he comes back into form. Try and give him a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a kick up the arse. Because the level Phil Foden's been playing at this year and last season, for me, isn't good enough for the player that he's supposed to be. Listen, Phil Foden's allowed to have an off season after the Player of the Year season that he had in 2023-24. But this is like the second season this is happening now, and I'm getting a little bit tired of it. I'm very worried that he's becoming a purple patch player like Rashford for United, where he might have 4 weeks where he grabs 5 goals and 3 assists in 8 games or something like that. But then after that, he just drops off a little bit, because we've seen Phil Foden get back up to his best for a few weeks this season, and then it's just dropped off again. We saw it a little bit last season. We saw glimpses of Phil Foden coming back into form and then dropping off again. So I'm just worried he's becoming a little bit of a Rashford for Manchester City, and I hate to say that, and God forbid I'm right, because the last thing I want to do is see Phil Foden's spark start to die and dim out, because he has got some generational talent in him, and I just want to see it on a more consistent basis. Please like, comment, share and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Like I said at the beginning, please let me know your thoughts on this issue in the comment section down below. What do we do going forward with Phil Foden? How long are we going to tolerate this vein of form? Because I'm not too sure. Like I said, please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you lot in a bit.